Hail, hail, the South Side here. And what the hell do we care now? It's been a long-ass summer. But we're back for the Sorare Celtic Supporters Club here on the South Side here. I am Quinny and I'm joined as ever by McBrideAce. McBride, good to see you, my man.
Hello, good evening. We're waiting to see if Bernardo signed before we started the stream. Thanks for that, Walker. First comment in that we're waiting. No, we were slightly late. Apologies. Great to be back. Looking forward to the game at the weekend. Can't wait.
And I'm not sure about Bernardo. We were cracking the jokes before coming on, but I don't know about you, but whenever you see Celtic Twitter just dropping a wee Portugal flag, we all have that little bit of hope that it's maybe a different Portuguese man that maybe comes back to Celtic rather than old PB, Big Paulo Bernardo. It's probably him, but we hope it's
announced now.
Oh, it's announced, is it?
They've ruined your joke, Quinny. There you go. That's you snookered.
Let's see if we got it.
Deal.
Yeah.
5-year deal subject to international clearance. So there we go.
Big Paulo, the match winner. Love that. Nice to have him back. And I'm glad, I don't know what the deal has actually been sealed at, the actual cost or whatever. But we were chatting about it alongside the Adamida stuff towards the back end of last season. And these guys, I've been quite happy to keep them, but at the right price. And Bernardo, I think his minimum fee was like 6 or 7 million euros, something like that. And way too much for what we've seen and probably what we're getting on the basis of the transfer market and whatever. And a lot of the chat was Celtic are trying to get it under the £4 million mark, which for me is a pretty good spot to get a guy like this in. So good to see that the protracted negotiations have probably been worth it, because although we'd love to have seen him in pre-season and maybe training ahead of the Kelly game at the weekend, saving 2 million quid, 3 million quid, it's worth probably not having him in the building for a couple of weeks, isn't it?
That'll pay Peter Lawwell's bonus this year, won't it? So we're sorted.
Well,
Value. I mean, you've got to be, if we were overpaying for players and things, then people would complain about that as well, wouldn't we? So there we go. It's just been quite frustrating with the IDA stuff and the lack of signings at the moment. But we have done some business, and they keep saying this, the window's still open. We had a similar chat in January, didn't we? And it never really transpired. Although Ida was a key player in the run-in, so I guess you could argue that was actually good business in the end. So there we go. But getting Bernardo in, I think, is a good move. He's still quite young as well. I think you forget that he's like at least 2 years younger than Matt O'Reilly or something. He is still quite young in the grand scheme of things. So maybe he's not the finished article yet, but pretty confident there's something there, and maybe we can improve him as well. So there we go.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he's a great guy to have in the squad. I've just actually went and pulled this screen up that I normally do on my own channel at Quinny 3001 whenever I do the Celtic stuff here, obviously, for it. But I've got a nice little tactics board that I like to kind of put squads out against and do some other bits and pieces. But this is kind of how we're sitting at the moment. Bernardo is back in the building. We don't have Ida at the moment, so we'll delete him. Balikwish also, obviously, that's not happened yet. But this is how we're sitting coming into the season. And I've seen a lot of stuff made out on social media from some of the bigger accounts. Like, we've not actually signed an outfield player yet. But the squad is the exact same, basically, as it was this time last year. But I do think Bernardo puts a good bit of cement, a good bit of concrete into the midfield there. Like, if any of those mids are out, he can play for any of them, ish.
Yeah. I think maybe we should sign that Scaldini as well. He sounds like a player. I just noticed that. We finished the season pretty well. That's, we did finish the season well. There's no doubt about it. Really, really good result away at Kilmarnock, which obviously topical for the game at the weekend, although it'll be a different type of game, I guess, playing them at home. We finished really strong. Just maybe a bit of frustration now to be in a really quite a good position from a financial point of view, knowing you're in the Champions League, knowing the income's coming in, knowing that you've got most of the top guys on really good contracts and not sort of improving, as the manager refers to as well. So I don't know. It's hard. Sometimes you discuss it, you feel as if you're making up excuses. Oh, January's difficult, and there was a Euros on, and blah de blah, and this type of thing. Like, if you if you do your business properly, you can get the business done. Like, we signed Alistair Johnson in the middle of a World Cup, didn't we? It was about the World Cup or whatever, and he came out of nowhere, and we signed him, and and he's been absolutely superb, been a really good signing. So that's been a bit frustrating, but there we go. There's still time to salvage it at the moment. There's no doubt about it. I don't think it's complete panic stations or anything, but it is dragging on a bit again.
And I think we're still a wee bit in the wilderness of just what we're now shopping for, because it's Ida, it's Bernardo, and that's kind of it. Like, there's not really anything else that you could really get your teeth into. Of course, like the Balikwisha links, me and you found very exciting. That would be like definitely on paper the best signing we've made since like Kyogo, like a out and out proven level guy that has a track record. There's no project element to this. It's a guy that would come in, make the best 11 better, and ultimately would be able to pull his own weight. Eo Tanaka I've had a big campaign for, and he's been listed here by our pal Walker, O'Shea, Tanaka, Balikwisha, Ida, and 2 on loan to buy, a left back and a right winger. That would be a great window if we finished with that. But this O'Shea guys came up in the kind of Matt O'Reilly chat to Southampton and all the rest of it, and I'm not too sure he's a guy we're just signing. It's maybe if he goes to Southampton, O'Reilly, that's maybe how that happens, but I don't think this is a guy that we're overly in for, but definitely still a lot of business to done.
There's been O'Shea was the guy that was he's a Burnley centre back into, and then Shea Charles is the midfielder, I think, at Southampton. So again, it kind of sounds a bit like, I don't know. I mean, so I'll give you an example, right? So Celtic play against Man City, they do well. Celtic hammer Chelsea, loads of media around that. You come out on Monday, and all of a sudden Hatate's linked to Leicester. Leicester are poised to offer for Hatate. Now, I know we're on a media channel, so I'm not going to swear or I'm not going to say anything too disrespectful here, but that to me seems awfully convenient. And it was the same as, Sorare bought probably about 20 goalkeepers trying to get the Celtic goalkeeper, and eventually we got Schmeichel. But I'm hoping that what happens is one day next week or before the window ends, we wake up and we've just bought somebody that nobody's really sort of known about, because there's been a lot of leaks, and there's, when we bought Cocoon in January, there was a big build up to it, and people seem to be talking about him a lot and analysing him, and seemed to be a solid link, and then eventually we closed down the deal. But remember when we signed Furuhashi a couple of years ago, we woke up one morning and it's like Celtic have signed Furuhashi, and I never seen a single link Celtic buying Furuhashi at that point. So we'll see what happens, but seems the manager is quite keen to improve the squad, and we have started to get 1 or 2 players out now. Benji Siegrist, and going to Genk. So there's Haksabanovic went to Malmo, didn't it? So I mean, there's definitely sort of some room in the wage budget, or we're getting some fees back in for some players, which hopefully should help us a bit as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in line with what McLaughlin P's got here, when you mentioned Alistair Johnson and maybe 1 or 2 of these other deals that we did under Ange, that we were kind of spoiled with, like, not necessarily the transfer strategy for the individuals we were buying, but the manner, like, getting Alistair Johnson at the end of an MLS season as he's on his way to the World Cup, and, Dyson and Kyogo and all these guys, it was just go and get them. It was very much the Ange way, it felt like, at that point. And we all thought, Celtic have changed, Celtic have evolved. But in line with what McLaughlin's saying here, I think we're very much back to the old Celtic way of, we are waiting for other transfers to happen, and then we're going to try and get someone else's trash and turn it into some treasure, probably. And maybe we need the squad declarations from the English Premier League to happen before there'll be a wee bit of movement there. But yeah, I think I don't think that we're not going to do business in this window. I think we definitely will, but I think this is more like old school Celtic, where it is going to be quite last minute. But in this case, it's not that we're waiting for Champions League qualification to happen before we get the checkbook out, but it's more that you need to see who's a spare part at a club, or who's a guy that is on the, maybe the transfer list is pretty bleak for now, but then after a couple of weeks, the transfer list fills up with guys that have put requests in or have had replacements bought against them, and that kind of thing. There's another wee one here from McLaughlin mentioning McAtee. I did a video, wrong comment. Was it this one? Oh no, I've lost it. But somebody mentioned McAtee. I did a video on this channel last week, and I went through like the positions that we've got and the sort of players I would still like to see us try and bring in. And I thought McAtee is just like, this is before we played City as well. But I do think McAtee would be like very Celtic, a guy that's got some experience at the senior level, but is not going to break in at Man City. Man City, I heard Brendan Rodgers describing. Did you see somebody in America asked Brendan Rodgers a question about the rivalry between Man City and Celtic, which is a weird question, weird as fuck. But the answer he got was that, oh no, there's, you know, like there's a friendship there, you know. So like even Rodgers recognises like we're in with City. So somebody like McAtee on loan, similar to Paddy Roberts, Olivier Ncham, Frimpong, the list goes on. Like you can see a deal like somebody like that happening kind of easy.
Yeah, I mean, there was only a couple of years ago Cole Palmer was cutting about in Man City reserves, and he was sort of pushing for a game in the first team, and Chelsea got a huge fee for him, which, you know, Chelsea paid a huge fee for him. Sorry, but that's turned out to be money well spent. I mean, McAtee, I think, would be a good signing. I think what's happened, reading between the lines, because obviously I listen to all the interviews and everything, desperate to get some Celtic action back. But when you hear the manager and you hear different interviews, one of the things he said was that we could have signed players, could have signed maybe 7 or 8 players, but yeah, I've turned them down. So, like, I think that under obviously Ange would say this is the guy I want, and they would let him drive that. I think that Rodgers is driving the transfer strategy in a different way. He's sort of driving guys away. So Celtic are maybe presenting guys that they think are good signings or potentially good signings or good value for the club or whatever. And he's looking at them and thinking, okay, that's not really going to improve what we've got here. Because remember, he mentioned about one of the previous windows, can't remember his last window, probably was, about actually being a bit braver in the market. So what he was basically saying was, instead of buying 5 guys at 3 million each, I'd like 2 guys at 7.5 million, that type of thing, which I think actually is the sort of situation we're in just now. So we're in a scenario where we've got reasonable numbers in the squad. I say reasonable numbers because I don't think we've actually got a viable backup to Greg Taylor. So I think that's a conversation that we had in January as well. We were talking about how if Greg Taylor get an injury or whatever, we're left quite short, and we've been ruthless in moving Bernabei on, which I can kind of see because it doesn't really seem that there's any real prospect of that working out in a good way. But, you know, at the very least, we need somebody that can compete with Greg Taylor and maybe even, dare I say, offer a more attacking option or a different option that improves that position. So it's, you know, it is really frustrating. I've used that word a few times, but yeah, we should be aiming to improve. We're a Champions League team, 8 games in the Champions League. We've got all income coming in for it. We're not in a tough financial position. Okay, we've not had any big sales or whatever, but I think we're run in such a way that we don't really need big sales now because we've got the budget, we've got the Champions League income. So yeah, I'd like to see us getting some of those signings in. Like, I know we got them in a loan and then we negotiated based on the option, but the season we signed like Carter Vickers and we signed Jota, you know, that type of transfer. We need a good transfer window when we bring in somebody who's obviously a good player.
This is a guy that I almost put in that video that's on the channel I referenced earlier, but I didn't because his injury record is god awful. But he would be a really good player, and that would be Omar Soulé, who's in the last year of his contract at RB Salzburg, and he's had interest from a lot of big teams in European football. Like, he is a great player, but his injuries seem to be all over the place. As for Seb Haller or Moukoko, I would say dream on. It's just not going to be the level of striker we're going to bring in. Even Moukoko, like, it's just not going to happen, is it? But Soulé is not a bad shout.
He might go on loan. But it would be one of those where we bring somebody in and we're almost developing them for another club rather than our strategy, which is more we'll bring somebody in and we're hoping if they turn into a really good player that will get a big fee, and that's something that might be on the horizon with some of the midfielders we've got. Let's not talk about it and jinx it, but like, you know, whilst we're frustrated with the recruitment, we've managed to do the recruitment in a way where it has actually put us in this position, but we will really want to see us hammer that home now and just actually get those final bits and pieces there that says, actually, thanks very much, Greg Taylor. Yeah, you know, you're a great squad player and you'll still play a good amount of games, but actually we're bringing in this guy, he's better than you and you're going to have to raise your game to compete with him. Like, that's what should be happening. When you come back, it's good that we're playing well in the friendlies and we've got continuity and maybe the team's playing the way the manager wants and everything. But I think you want to create that added bit of competition, that bit of freshness, that one or two sort of signings to drive people forward. So goalkeeper's a great signing. I mean, like, you know, that's a bit of obvious quality regardless of his age. So that's good, but it doesn't necessarily put us in a better position than last season, I don't think. So yeah, I think we've still got work to do. It's not two ways about it.
Just realised on this depth chart that I've got, I never had the Magic Mikey Johnson on it. So
Magic Mike.
Yeah. Magic Mikey on the wing, the fourth left winger that we've got at the club, or is he a right winger? Who knows, I suppose. But yeah, I'm totally with you there. We should be trying to lift the level. There's a lot of great shouts in the chat for, you know, the sort of players and the Tommy Conway. I don't know enough about, but like if he's getting in the Scotland squad, he can't be that bad, I suppose. But I don't know if that's the level of guy we really should be hunting for at this stage of the window. Timo Weah is now playing right wing back, maybe up front this year for Juventus. So I don't think we'll be seeing him back at Celtic Park anytime soon. But yeah, that's definitely what we're I think everyone expects our left centre back to come in, and then maybe like Lagerbielke and Kobayashi to get shunted out. But maybe we're waiting for them to go before somebody comes in. But I say with the lack of links, it's hard to imagine, like you say, we're actively pursuing people, and it's not just like Rodgers putting the scouts through a process of elimination, like just rejecting people until they get one that works and then going for it, rather than him saying, "This is the guy I want. Go and get him for me." You know?
Yeah, I think it's more like it's more a numbers thing as well. So, you know, if there was potentially a deal on the go for Kobayashi, then you can't really let him go just now until you get another left back in. Whereas if you do get a good left back in, you might be able to say to Kobayashi, right, okay, you're now free to go. So I can understand what they did with Bernabei, because he different episodes of what he was doing, and you know, it didn't really look as if it was going to work out. And sometimes you get a chance to do a deal and you just think, okay, we'll just let that deal happen. But I think maybe now we're in a scenario where we're getting to the bare bones in positions, because, you know, he does not come back. We've got rid of O. So what happens, touchwood, it doesn't happen, but what happens if Furuhashi gets a knock? Who's going to play up front? Okay, Dyson can play up there, but you've not got that natural replacement there where you go, it's a Giacomakis or it's a Nida or whatever you say. That guy's definitely slotting right in there. We know what we're getting from that point of view. So, you know, we have started to clear guys out, but there's not even options sort of been coming in, and nothing really. You know, Rocco Vata is left, so we never really managed to tie him down. So there's nothing really that's standing out in terms of coming through the sort of youth academy where you say, well, okay, that guy could play a couple of cup games and see us through or whatever if you get a small injury or whatever. So I think, thinking back again to last season, we finished the season really strong and it was really a good end to the season. But that was also because guys like Hatate and Carter Vickers and Dyson made a miraculous recovery. Like, they came back from injury. And if you remember before that, when they were out, we were really struggling. So I think that what we are, weirdly, even though you look at that and think we've got loads of players, we are lacking a wee bit of depth in terms of just the actual quality of the guys coming in, being able to keep up that level that we've been setting at the end of the season in Scotland as well, obviously.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see that. Was again another great shout from McLaughlin here. 27 goals for Kyogo and he hits 100. I think that's something we could see happen this year.
Yeah,
no two ways about it. And Stephen Kennedy brings up the ghost of Bojan Miovski. Aberdeen are after 6.5 mil. We should hit them with 5. I'm still not too convinced. Like Ida, I wasn't too convinced on, but I thought he's a bottom end Prem, top end Championship guy. Should help us through to the end of the season. But like for what he actually did, like I'm wholeheartedly convinced that he is a guy we should bring in and can get a little bit better and maybe can perform for us on Champions League. But I think with Miovski, you just take a lot of that out of the equation because we don't know how he'll fit into the squad, how well he'll do for us. Could he be worthy of getting a shot in Europe, kind of thing? Whereas I think if we're not going to get Ida, we need someone that gives us that same level of confidence in striker number 2 that Ida would give us. I don't think Miovski's that guy.
He's a good player. Yeah, he's a good player, but I don't even know if he's the same type of player. Like, I remember watching like those international friendlies. You think you're just missing football now. And you're like, what am I doing watching an international friendly? But Ireland were on and Boggle whipped across and Ida scored a good header. So yeah, I don't think Majowski's that type. I mean, he's definitely a good player. He roasted us that game. Maybe he roasted Novrocky. So he scored a couple of good goals against Celtic as well. And there's no doubting that, you know, I think Aberdeen are right to hold out for a good fee, because it comes into what we're trying to do when we're trying to say, okay, we're going to hold people to their contract, or if the big bid comes in and the right value comes in, we'll sell. And we'll get teams from out like England, teams from Italy who think that the right price is 14 or 15 million, and we're going, yeah, no, I don't think so. Actually, to be honest, like, you know, this guy's a lot better than a lot of these guys we've seen going for 20 million in the market and everything. So it's good to see the Scottish clubs standing firm. And if you're going to lose one of your sort of key assets or whatever, then you get the huge money in and you're able to replace it. The problem just now is we went and sold somebody just now for 20 million. I wouldn't have any real confidence in the recruitment team to bring in somebody that's good. I don't know about you, Quinny, but I've just, because of the last couple of windows, I've just lost a lot of confidence in the actual process of how we identify players and how we bring them in, and then what we do with them. Because if you bring in Yang or whatever and you say, okay, this guy's a rough diamond or whatever, why don't you just go and pay your £1 million for him, get him on loan to somewhere more sort of suited to our league, or even in our league, and then introduce them into the team. But we tend to bring these guys in and just expect them to be world beaters and be able to win games every week, and that's not the way football works.
Yeah, well, that's very true. A lot of great chats coming in over Majowski and all the rest of it. 5 million plus Oliver Tabili would be a deal, wouldn't it? If you get that over the line for it. And yeah, like Strangelove says here, like, see, I'm just Balikwisha. That's the sort of guy I want to see us get. Someone that's got something about them. They're a guy that's been around the block, won a credible title somewhere, perhaps maybe a golden boot, something. But then, you know, yeah, I can't say the word something enough, but they should be bringing something to Celtic rather than us. Like, if we sign Majowski, we're bringing him up a level, you know, and then it's about, can he match that or whatever. We want to be bringing guys in like Kasper Schmeichel that are a level above what we're playing at, essentially, you know, and then they bring the team up. You know, Strangelove made another good point as well. It's about variation as well. Like, Taylor is like very good inverted fullback under Ange, and under Brendan, we've seen him kind of go back to left back, normal left back job a bit more. And like, I don't know if I'd call Taylor an attacking fullback, right? But he's definitely better in the opposition's half than he is in our half, I think, for the most part. So another left back that maybe gives you either like they are a proper attacking wing back. There's no two ways about it. It's another winger on the pitch, or they're maybe like the, I don't know, for lack of a better example, they're like the Guardiola type, where they're just like a wide centre back, you know, but you know, they're defensively, nobody's getting by them. They're as solid as a rock, and you know, they can play progressive passes into midfield and down the wing and whatever. So yeah, I would value a wee bit more variation into something like left back, and like you mentioned, up front we've got Kyogo, somebody like Ida or Jacko beforehand. You've got that variation on the style that they bring. Whereas Majowski, similar to what you were saying, McBride, for me, he's kind of in the middle of like a Kyogo and an Ida. He's neither one or the other. He's kind of a wee bit of both, and in a way, in terms of profile.
Yeah, and he is a good player. And you know, I think if he was available for something similar to maybe the Paulo Bernardo fee, then you would consider it. But Aberdeen obviously have seen pound signs, and they want to get the top dollar for him, which is fine. You know, there's Celtic will try and do that if anyone's outgoing from Celtic, so you can't criticise that in any way. I mean, I think the problem with the defence, we've seen it towards the end of the last season. So, you know, Greg Taylor likes to get forward, and Scales is good at certain things, but he's not that athletic as a centre half. So you see like Carter Vickers, where on that side of things, where you've got Carter Vickers and you get Johnson, looks quite secure, and Johnson's doing his best to add the forward line stuff, the assists, you know, all that sort of stuff to his game. But sometimes he gets in the box and he gets a nosebleed, which is fine. He's a right back or he's a defensive player. But when Celtic go forward or the attack, or Greg Taylor finds himself in the midfield, that's the side of the pitch where we tend to get targeted or are caught out a bit more. So I remember when we were at the Atletico Madrid game, we were sitting watching it, and you had said about us on that side, and I think we made a switch. We brought on Paulo Bernardo, and we sort of changed the formation a bit to get a bit more I think it was more in midfield, maybe took Palma off and just tried to double up a bit on that side, because Atletico Madrid were actually targeting us down that side because they're such a clever, good football team. So I think that's a side where we need somebody who's a bit more athletic. That's, somebody who, if we want to play a bit more expansively, that they've got the recovery pace or whatever to fit in there. And midfield, Callum McGregor's a legend, and love him to bits, but he's not really got legs these days, if that makes sense. He's good at doing that job in there, but he's not maybe got the legs to cover that ground to go and plug those gaps if somebody gets caught out of position or whatever. So there we go. I mean, we talked about a lot of these things last season already, didn't we? So I don't think it's really new or rocket science or whatever. It's the same stuff that we're still trying to solve or move forward, hopefully in this window. And then I thought, well, maybe we'll do it in January. We'll have played the 8 Champions League games by then. Let's go and do it just now.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I think watching the team in pre-season, I watched the Man City game. I stayed up for it. I caught the highlights for Chelsea. I didn't see any of the stuff that happens in Scotland with, what was it, Queen's Park and Ayr or something like that, or I can't remember who it was now.
Yeah, it was an Ayr game.
Scott Brown's team, wasn't it, Ayr? So I didn't see those games, but like the comments that's coming out of the club and from what I've seen, like it really does feel that like a lot of the guys are firing on all cylinders at this point in time, and last year was a really difficult season, I felt, for particularly Kyogo and Hatate. I just don't feel either one of them really got, if you were to sit and think, oh, what did they do last year? Like, I think Hatate got 1 goal or something like that. And Kyogo, like, I know he played every game, but there was very few games where you're like, oh, Kyogo won us that, or Kyogo was on it today. It was absolutely everything he was touching was at the back of the net. I know he scored goals. I know he was great. We all love him. But I think you know what I'm saying. Like Kyogo, when he first arrived in from Vissel Kobe, was fucking frightening, Anywhere near around the box, people couldn't handle him. He was smashing things in, left foot, right foot, edge of the box, inside the box, front post, back post, you name it. And it feels like there's a great tempo in the squad coming into this year. So I'm quite hopeful that we will get a bit of progression out of Kyogo. I think this will be, I've seen this to somebody on Twitter, I can't remember who it was earlier today, but this will be the year of Rio for me. I think this will be, like, O'Reilly will have a great season if we keep him, obviously. But I think this will be the Hatate season more than anything. I think as long as he stays fit, but I don't think Brendan's not going to do the same crap that he did last year and play Turnbull over him for a couple of weeks until he gets injured. And then it's the season. So I think like this will be the O'Reilly from last season, along with the Rio that we could have this season. Like, it just feels like it's going to be absolutely brilliant. But also on that note, during this pre-season, we have seen Mikey Johnson maybe get himself back in for a bit of a second chance. We've seen Lewis Palma get pitch invaders, and he's scored a goal and stuff like that. So maybe he might do a bit better. Who knows? But Kuhn looks like he could be a proper player if we weren't to sign a Balikwisha type, another wide forward. But Kuhn looks like he's moved into the role, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was something to do with his wisdom teeth, or there was something happened and he just wasn't firing on all cylinders. So, I mean, sometimes players take a bit of time to settle in. So I guess that's the thing. You could sign somebody just now who could be a good player and they just don't really hit the ground running for whatever reason. But it's nice to see him firing. He missed the last friendly. I think Roger said he'd some sort of niggle, his back injury or whatever, although it did look as if he was training before the game. So I think he'll be fine for Sunday. But it'd be good to see those guys firing, because we have actually committed a bit of money to buying guys like that as well. Didn't think it was a brilliant window in January, but we did go and we identified Kuhn, and maybe he'll come good and he'll offer that different option. Luis Palma, I see him quite heavily as a backup now. I just think Maeda finished the season just completely flying, and Maeda and him are different options, and they can complement each other in a way, because you could have Maeda running people ragged for maybe 60 or 70 minutes, and Palma might come on and take a bit of glory and stick one in the back of the net or Rose Ed, whatever way he chooses. But so that's not a bad balance. But I think we still you talked about Balikwisha, and he's a guy who really is quite sort of athletic and can beat a man, that type of thing. So we're going to be getting back to a lot of the games we had last season where we've got that sort of playing against a low block, and that's where Hatate comes into his own, because he's a guy who can take the ball on the turn and he can link play, and he can be quite creative, and we sort of lack some of those options in the squad. So we'll see, but maybe the big thing is whether or not we can actually hold on to some of these guys, and whether we can get them firing, and we can just repel the rumours and just not take the money, not take the profit, and just actually allow the team to develop, and then add one or two to that over and above that. Because if we did sell one of those guys, I think we're taking a huge step backwards, because we could sell somebody for 20 million and buy somebody for 10 million, and they could come in and not work out. That's what transfers are like, right? And our recruitment maybe isn't always trustworthy. Although if you go a level up and you get the right players, you buy a bit more guaranteed quality, for want of Roger's word. But we're not really used to shopping in that area. That's probably the issue, right? We're used to doing the scattergun approach, and we'll buy 10 guys and see if one or two of them end up worth 15 or 20 million, and then try and sort of move on from there. So it's interesting.
That exact strategy has been the strategy of Venezia over the last couple of years. If you don't know Venezia, they've probably got the most fashion-sensible football gear you've ever seen in your life, and they're priced accordingly. But they've got a bit of a star midfielder from America that was on the cusp of joining Inter Milan, and it seems like that's fell through. And we've been linked with Tanner Tessman a fair amount. Now, I must admit, I've not seen Tessman since he left America. He's been playing a lot of Serie B. They've just been promoted back into Serie A. But again, it's maybe not quite the same as Miofsky, because Italian football is maybe a wee bit more, testing, even at Serie B level, if you're at the top end of the table. But this isn't a guy I would be totally buzzing about bringing into a Champions League squad right off the bat. Maybe his quality, maybe I'm being naive with him, but he's been linked a fair amount. I've seen him in the chat. I thought I'd bring him up. Have you seen much of Tessman? Got much of a thought on him?
I remember before he went to them, he was playing in MLS, so I do remember him, I think, from the MLS. I think I've said this before, like, I think the problem with all the rumours and everything is that, when we got to goalkeepers and things, we're linked with Casteels, and you and me probably got a heart set on him a bit, because, he was a good goalkeeper, and everyone's seen at the Euros that he was a top level goalie. He was playing for Belgium and everything. So you get all these links out, and you say, yeah, that's the one I would really want. But a lot of times the media are just throwing up names just to generate a bit of clicks. They want to create some media, they want to create some rumours, they want to create some discussion, etc., which is fair enough. So yeah, I mean, let's see who we actually get. But some of these names are just proposed by people, are not really concrete transfer links to the club itself. And the lad Charles at Southampton might make sense if O'Reilly actually goes to Southampton, but I don't really see that's a deal that will be attractive to him. I mean, he seemed to be a wee bit affected by the Atletico Madrid interest in January, but why wouldn't you be? Atletico Madrid are one of the top teams in world football, playing a really good city, a big league. We played against them. He's experienced that. He would be, but it's no disrespect to Southampton. They've come up and they might go back down again. And also they're a team who historically would buy guys, maybe like Virgil van Dijk, and then sell them on for more money, or buy guys and aim to sell them on to bigger teams in the league, etc. So I don't really see that deal going through, because Celtic want the true value of Matt O'Reilly, and Southampton probably want to pay a bit less with a view to them improving and or selling him on in our club themselves. So I don't really know whether that's really a realistic transfer proposition. And again, Atalanta seem to be coming in with the 14, the 15 million, and they're a really quite a well-run club. Won a European trophy, play great football and all that type of stuff, but they're not really renowned for going and spending 30 and 40 million on players. So if Celtic really hold that high value of O'Reilly, which they should, it's like 4 years left in his deal. He's been brilliant. He's also had man of the match in Champions League, etc. Not just doing it in Scotland. He's stepped up to that level. Brilliant in Celtic Rangers games, away from home, playing great. We're right to have that valuation of him. So I'm hopeful he'll stay. To be honest, I think I'm more leaning towards he will stay than he'll go, because I just don't think that people are going to come in and pay the valuation that we want, which is, I think, is absolutely fine. Let's just keep him. Let's, if he keeps doing well and those bids come in next year or whatever, and he really wants to go, well, we've had a couple of good years out of him and the model works and we can use that money to reinvest, or dare I say it, win the league this season, then you've got to qualify for the Champions League next season. So we're not going to be certain of the money in the position we're in. Coefficients change because we've been so bad in Europe for so long. So, you've got to think about all that stuff as well. But that's next season. Let's keep the team together and keep playing like we did against Chelsea, etc. And I'm sure we'll have lots of good wins in Sorare and lots of good afternoons out at Celtic Park, hopefully, as well.
I would think like keeping a hold of these guys is almost as big as a coup as like getting a major signing in, but we still do need to move the team on. We can't just settle for tying people down because we've already tied them down. We did all that contract crap last year, relentlessly. So that doesn't take any work to keep people really at this point. Everyone's on contracts except for Greg Taylor. And so like I do agree, if we didn't sell anyone, it would be a big W for this transfer window. Like no two ways about it. I do think O'Reilly is going to end up in Serie A by the end of this window, personally. But that's all I'll say on that, and we'll see how it does all shake out. But yeah, like you mentioned, we're here for the Sorare Celtic Supporters Club. We're back this season. We've got Flag Day on Sunday. McBride's got the tickets out. Me and him will be making our way there for the game, which will be good. And I think, like, I was just looking at the depth thing again. If I just get rid of all the side pieces for a second, I think the team does kind of pick itself coming into the weekend. This is probably the big thing me and you were chatting about before the show tonight, the last couple of days, is maybe just right back is one of the only spots that maybe there's some sort of question mark on. But seeing Alistair Johnson being interviewed at the training grounds yesterday, sounds like he's talking about being integrated into the squad and being ready for Flag Day himself. So I don't know I think he will start now. That's the way I'm kind of thinking, but I'm not sure he gets the full 90 minutes. I don't know if Ralphs maybe comes off the bench or something like that. I could see Johnson coming off the bench. I don't think that's unimaginable, but he's been in training since Monday. He's probably been back in Glasgow since last week anyway. He's had like 12 days off. He went away with his bird and proposed and all that stuff. And I don't see, like, he's just off Copa America, a semi-final, third place playoff. So it's not like he's bent out of match shape or he's ring rusty or anything like that. He's just had a bit of time off, and it's just about getting back into tempo and getting in line with the squad. What's the plan for the weekend? Who you marking? What you doing at corners? This is the passages of play we've been practicing, that kind of thing. So I think it's probably quite safely Alistair Johnson and this sort of team we're looking at.
Yeah, and a word for Alistair Johnson. We've seen obviously Scottish guys going to the Euros and getting a good gubbing, but Alistair Johnson was in the team of the tournament for the Copa America. So Canada done really well there actually, but that just shows you the type of sort of quality we've got with guys like that. And I think maybe actually he is just a wee notch above the likes of guys like Scales and Greg Taylor or Anna, notch above. Like, he's a really solid player and he's starting to add things to his game. He's got a really good personality as well. He did look quite fit. And he was obviously been interviewed and he was just talking about playing the game. I think he was just giving him the time off because he's been playing so many competitive games. So he doesn't really need friendlies. I think he'll start. He may well. He might manage his minutes, maybe if we're winning by a few goals, but it will depend on the game state, I think, as well. I think that team pretty much picks itself. A lot of people, especially in Sorare, when they see Palma scores, just automatically think that Palma's going to play somewhere. But seen at the end of the season, he did play the last game, but that was the rotated team. And even in the friendlies, he never started against Man City, never started against Chelsea. So it kind of looks as if we were like, this is a first team type outlook here, and we're going to go and play very real high intensity and have a good go, and this is a proper workout, last friendly, etc. And CCV came straight into that game as well, albeit it came off early, but he did start obviously the last game as well, so I expect him to be playing too. But I don't think there's any real issue with that team at all. I think you should be quite confident getting into a home game in Scotland with a team of that nature. So
yeah, should be a good one. I think we've got one of our pals in the chat, Gaza's in here causing it, asking for Rangers chat because Proppers went to them. He's obviously gutted, but yeah, Proper at Rangers. He's a decent centre back. Let's see if it actually goes through and all the rest of it. But yeah. Gaza's here causing it. He's after Rangers chat. It's not happening. But no, I think like normally, like the last couple of flag days, we've done really, really well. But Kilmarnock are a little bit different, aren't they? Derek McInnes, they were one of the top teams last year. They're playing Cercle Bruges midweek in European qualifications. And like, Kilmarnock, I was saying this on a stream earlier, doing gallery reviews and stuff like that. But Derek McInnes like recruits really well. Like, you don't always know the players that are playing for him, but see when they're playing you or they're playing Celtic, like you're like, Jesus, man, where'd they get that right winger from? And who's that guy in midfield? Like, they're not great, but they give us a game, So I don't know if this is going to be the same sort of flag day we've had over the last couple of years, where it's been 4, 5s, and 6s, that kind of scoreline. But the synergy, the momentum of beating City and Chelsea and all this kind of stuff, like, and how good the forward line is looking, maybe we can.
I think it depends what happens. I know that sort of seems like a bit of a cop out, but I'm just looking in. Kilmarnock are losing 1-0 to Cercle Bruges just now. So, but they're still in the tie, right? They drew 1 each at home, and they're only 1 goal behind. So, I mean, it's early in the season. I think they'll be putting a lot of effort into that game. I think what will happen is Kilmarnock are usually kind of in your face and they press quite a lot. So it might be one of those games where we start in intensity, they start at quite a high intensity, and then maybe if we could just get an early goal, take a bit of the wind out of their sails, or maybe we just stay patient and, they play with their high intensity or their pressing, etc. But eventually maybe they'll tire a bit as well, because we should be ready for this. We've done really well in the friendlies. We look as if we're in good form. Confidence levels are pretty high. Kilmarnock are currently playing, then they've got to travel back. So it's early in the season. I'm not saying fatigue will play any sort of type of factor, but Celtic are solely focusing on this game, whereas Kilmarnock are having to go away and obviously playing quite a tough game against a good Belgian side as well, signed quite a lot of talented players. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm hoping it will be 4 or 5-0, but any sort of win, good performance. Yeah, I'd like to see a bit of solidity at the back. Last season I think we conceded a late goal and we drew 1 each with Kilmarnock, didn't we? So we're winning 1-0 and then conceded really late, and it's almost, middle of that run where we were in a bit of a disaster. And you just moved Schmeichel. I mean, I thought he was really impressive actually over the course of the friendlies. So maybe we're being disrespectful to Schmeichel. Maybe actually with Joe Hart deciding that he was declining a bit and he didn't want to continue, maybe we've just actually signed a better goalkeeper. I mean, you could look at it and say he's the same age, etc. We just played at Euros. They look great in the friendlies, etc. It looks like a really good influence. I watched the press conference he had early on. He speaks really well. Obviously, a real sort of leader or a good guy to have around the dressing room. So that's a great addition. And maybe we'll need to rely on him, or we'll need to rely on him at some points. But it'd be nice to get a good sort of confidence boost and 1-0 type scenario. That would help in Sorare as well. So I mentioned that a few times. If we could get the clean sheet, that would be extremely helpful.
I forgot Gaza was a Cherny stan as well. So Gaza's got Cherny and Proper over at the dark side now. So, but no, I'm with you. I think Schmeichel, like I've seen that. I thought it was on one of these shows, but I can't. Oh no, I think I might have been in Ryan 118's live chat or something like that. But maybe it was here. I said it when we signed him, but like you do need to go back 10 years or something like that before Joe Hart is a better goalkeeper than Schmeichel. Like clearly, like I know they're both old, and goalkeepers or people generally decline physically as they get older. Goalkeepers, obviously, as we know, is a bit of an exception. But Schmeichel, for me, if you had the choice of both these keepers for the last 10 years, you're picking Schmeichel over Hart almost every time. And I think some of the glimpses that we've seen in pre-season, Joe Hart doesn't make some of those saves. I'm sorry. Like I was always a Joe Hart apologist or a fan or whatever, but I don't think we ever really got much more than a 7 out of 10 out of Joe Hart in his better games. I think he was quite consistently a 5 or a 6, and the good games were maybe a 7. Because again, me and you know from looking at the statistics in the way that we do, but Joe Hart never really had many games where he made 3 saves in a match or anything like that. It was very, maybe that's the way we play in the opposition and whatever, but I just think that Schmeichel, I think we could have a clean sheet monster on our hands coming into this one. He could be an extra defender in a roundabout way. He really does help keep the ball out the net, which might make the difference, not just for the Kelly game, but the season as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, in the Belgian league last season. So I think last season, Joe Hart's sort of what do you call it for goalkeepers? Expected saves or whatever, or goals.
Goals prevented.
Goals prevented, -1. Butland's was about 0, which means he prevented as many as he let in. And Schmeichel's was 8 or 9. So that means that actually he should have let in 8 or 9 more goals than he actually did concede, which is pretty good because Anderlecht, I think, came second last season. I think they had a really good run at the end, and they get right into the high places, and he was one of the key players there. So more of that would be really good, because I think last season our Achilles heel was just conceding daft goals at points. And if you look into the European games, remember really well, we're playing at Feyenoord away with a really good first half. We're doing really well. It was a free kick for about 30 yards out, goes over the wall and somehow goes in. You're just like, really maybe we should be saving that type of shot, etc. So that changed the game. You went from getting in 0-0 at half time looking quite comfortable, and you're 1-0 down and it all started to go wrong. So, there's no doubt about it. When you're playing against top teams away from home, etc., you're going to need your goalkeeper to bail you out every so often or whatever. So, let's hope that we've nailed down that position. Took a bit longer than we expected to get a goalkeeper in, because we knew for ages that we were having to replace Joe Hart, but we've got someone who's playing still at a really high level just off the back of our Euros, so we can forget about that position now, and a good bit of business getting the younger guy in, rather than just saying, oh well, Bain's here and we'll just play him. We can improve on that situation, and the young goalkeeper looks as if he's got something about him as well. Maybe he'll get some cup games, over the course of the season. He'll be able to bed in, he'll be able to learn from Schmeichel, and either next season, or maybe if Schmeichel extends the season after, he'll start getting more games, and he can ease his way into the team or whatever, and prove that he's the guy to take over the mantle. So I think from a defence point of view, it should be solid enough. We're just, from a window perspective, we just look really, really light in some areas, and those areas are obviously left centre back, left back, and striker. Those are the key areas just now, and that's without talking about really sort of improving the team. Just a bit light even in sort of basic numbers in some of the positions as well, which is a bit annoying. So
yeah, I'm with you. Good shout here from McLaughlin P. We've got a 1-year contract on Schmeichel with an option for the second. You've got to think that's his objective, is probably getting to World Cup shape with us, and then maybe that's his swan song at the age of 40 or whatever he'll be by then. But I was thinking when we were chatting before about like the outfielders, and I know we're kind of dancing between previewing the game and the transfer window thus far kind of thing. But I heard, and I'm sure every Celtic fan did, but I actually listened to the thing. I listened to it whenever it comes out, but we all heard the Wayne Rooney overlap quote where he was like, if I could have played for one team that I didn't play for, I would have picked Celtic. And I really do think we should be really active in every transfer window to try and find one player to have in our squad that is like a marquee veteran, like Aaron Moy is a veteran, right? But I don't know if he's quite a marquee veteran in that kind of same regard. It's always worked out for us, and there's a lot of guys in the chat that I'm sure will be able to give us examples of when we have tried this and it didn't really work out for us. But it does feel like Hart, it does feel like Schmeichel, they have goalkeepers is a little bit of a different thing. But in terms of outfield, if we did bring in, and I'm just going to use this name just as a placeholder, I'm not thinking we're going to get him or saying we should get him or whatever, but if we brought in like a Sergio Ramos into defence or something like that, I'd be rubbing my hands like, brilliant. A guy that's been around the block, been in some big matches, and they just want to come and play for the fans. They want to come to Celtic and finish their career at an important club, winning stuff, being, part of one of the biggest clubs in the world and doing Champions League football with us and all that kind of thing. So that all just kind of came to mind again. I thought I would just bring that up just now. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. A lot of these guys go to like the MLS, etc. Obviously, they'll earn good wages. They'll maybe go for a lifestyle thing as well. It's not quite the same. Maybe like talking about going to Miami or whatever, or going to Glasgow. But there's still guys who remain competitive. Schmeichel talked about he wanted to come somewhere where he was expected to win every week. So some of these guys are just quite happy to have their time with their family. Tony Kroos retiring really, really early. Really at the top of his game, retiring just to his own way of wanting to go at the top, and he was quite happy with that. Whereas some of the other guys get to the end of their career and go, hang on, I've still got a bit of fight in me here. I want to go and I want to win some more trophies. I want to go and still be competitive. I want to be pushing for the Denmark national team squad, all that type of stuff. And yeah, Moy was a really good signing. I mean, he came in and he done a really good job, and it was unfortunate because of the way he was in terms of his own body or injuries. He couldn't really continue to play on. But whilst he was playing, I mean, he was keeping Matt O'Reilly out of the team for a while. So, he was doing a really good job for Celtic as well at one point. So, Sergio Ramos, that's a top shout. That, but there'll be guys out there who've had quite good careers and they've been performing at a high level, and maybe their club is thinking about moving on to the next generation of players, and there just becomes an avenue for them to sign, whether it's on a free contract or it's maybe taking like a Moravchik. Remember he came in and Alan McInally said if you sign people for 300,000, you sign monkeys or some quote like that. And the guy was he was just outrageous, and he gave us 2 or 3 years have been brilliant, even though we signed him when he was 33. So I'm sure there would be pretty good players out there that we could pluck out if we decided just to add to that sort of youth strategy or whatever by bringing in 1 or 2 bits of experience. So
yeah, I thought Moravchik's a great example. I was thinking people in the chat were more going to throw the James McCarthy's and the Ian Wrights and the Dion Dublins at me, but so it can go both ways. I'm not ignorant to that, but I think if you find the right guy, like imagine if we got another midfielder in that was like a guy that's played Champions League his whole career, insert name, and he's like 32, doesn't want to go play for DC United, doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, and he's like, I'll play for Celtic,
They'll be out there. I mean, you're right, and there'll be guys there. Like if you look at Dusan Tadic was playing for Ajax, and there was all sorts of different rumours, and then he was on a free, and Fenerbahce picked him up, and he signed a 2-year contract there, even though he was already like 34, something at that stage, and he's still a really good kind of number 10 type player, and still gets in his national team and all. So there's players there, and you're not really thinking about resale value or any of that type of stuff. You're just thinking about, is this guy going to add some sort of experience and quality into the team? And let's not forget last season, the last couple of games we relied on James Forrest, and we were all kind of, I was about Forrest still here, blah blah blah, and he got us over the line in a lot of those games as well. As a Dundee game, we scored 2 good goals, made a huge contribution. So he'll just sit there and he'll be professional, and something will happen, and he'll have to play a few games, and he'll come in and he'll deliver. And guys like that can be worth a lot of money in terms of winning trophies as well, over and above the general strategy of what we've been doing, which it has worked, but we've had a couple of bad windows. I mean, I think there's no 2 ways about it. We haven't really had a good transfer window for how long was that? 3 windows now. We've not really. It's like probably 4 windows ago was the last one we really thought, yeah, that's a decent window, or maybe 5. It went under Ange, wouldn't it? Really, in all honesty, and it just shows that maybe the recruitment at the club has been bailed out by his vision of who he wanted to bring in, and his own knowledge of the different leagues that he'd been managing in. So,
did you just get a Jordan Larson notification?
Is Jordan aye?
I heard your phone vibrating, and I get the same one. Maybe he didn't do it, but it's just that the game's over.
He's actually a good game for a change, though.
Toure was a great one. Toure was a great one we had. And, somebody's mentioning Como signing, obviously, Varane and 1 or 2 others. By the way, on like that, see when Como signed Andrea Bellotti, who's like Giakoumakis on steroids, they got him for like £4.5 million off of Roma, And with Como, not in Europe, obviously, but if you don't know like Como, go on Google Maps and check it out. Like that's why people are moving there. It's like paradise on earth kind of stuff, So
that looks amazing. It does look really good. But then that's a strategy as well. They're like, we're just going to sign Varane, we're going to sign Pepe Reina, going to sign all, and all these guys are going to come, and they've sort of bought into that. And that's like what you're saying. Like, we go to somebody and we say, look at what Joe Hart's done here, look at what Schmeichel's done here. Like, you could come here, you could play in the Champions League, you could have another couple of years, fans going to love you, you've got a good chance of winning trophies. People will buy into that. You just got to sell it in the right way. You're not selling coming to Glasgow for the weather or whatever. You're talking about Champions League and competitive game. I mean, some of these guys have come to Parkhead and have been really, really kind of quite complimentary about the atmosphere and everything. So maybe some guys there just think, I should quite fancy going and playing there for a season and seeing what it's like. So
did you hear the Joey Barton story about signing for Rangers? It came up over the summer. I don't know if it was a fresh interview or whatever, podcast appearance. But he was talking about how they took him to the Cameron House, and like it was at the Cameron House for like 2 days, and it must have been like the 2 hottest days we've ever had. And he was like, Scotland's fucking great. Like, what? I don't get weather. What are people talking about and all that? And it's like, if you hang out at the Cameron House for a couple of days with raw weather, then you might think you're in like Como, but you're in Balloch.
It's not that far from Glasgow. It's only about 45 minutes in the car or something. But
I know, but
that's a belter. That is a belter. So.
But yeah, so that just popped into my mind just now. And James Forrest has played for the jersey, and he's definitely got a place in the squad for me. Like, I've been a big champion of the likes of Forrests and Ralstons and even Welsh. Like, I'm happy to keep Welsh in the squad. There's no, unless someone wants to pay money for him, like, no need to chase them out. These are guys that bleed green, white, and gold. And they've came through the system. You can plug them in against St Mirren and they'll do 6 out of 10 for you or whatever.
I don't know about that. What was Stephen Welsh? Are you watching?
If he doesn't get injured.
I know. I get that, right, and I think Tony Ralston's done like a good job in terms of coming in and being an understudy. But actually, I think a lot of the times you're watching the likes of Novrocky and Welsh stuff now, you're thinking, are they actually good enough? Novrocky's been unlucky with injuries as well, but he did get roasted at Aberdeen, and we paid a lot of money for Novrocky. So if you pay $4 million or whatever for a young centre half, you're expecting they'll come in and they'll be really pushing scales. And we've got guys in there who you think, well, they're only going to get a game if somebody's injured. They're not actually challenging for a place. They're not playing in the cup and playing out their skin and looking as if they're actually better than other players. They're just kind of, oh, well, that's fine. We've got somebody there and he can play if he's not playing. So we need a bit better on that. I think we need somebody to come in, and Scales is sitting in the bench, and then Scales is like, well, I'm going to have to improve to get back in the team. That's what we need now. We don't need guys to come in to sit in the bench to say, that's fine. If we've got 4 injuries here, I'll get a game of football here. Like, let's actually aim at moving forward rather than what's been happening last season. Because we're playing the Champions League. We're not playing against that Magpies pub team that Copenhagen were playing against or whatever. We're playing in the Champions League, so we're gonna have to bring good performances, and we're only 1 or 2 injuries away just now from having a huge issue. That's the problem. The games will start piling up in 4 or 5 weeks' time, so we've got to nail the rest of this window and actually go into the season with a bit of momentum. Like, it'd be good to go on Sunday, everybody will be enjoying it, etc. We don't want people frustrated because of all this money and we just not spent anything. I understand why people feel like that based on the windows. So anyway, I'm going to go enjoy it anyway. So
yeah, likewise.
Like
in terms of spending money or not spending money and being frustrated and all the rest of it, this weekend is also a big weekend for Celtic. We're back for Flag Day. The champions are back in town, and we expect to see a reinvigorated Brendan Rodgers Celtic, which is what we've been kind of chewing over. Pretty predictable starting 11 and all the rest of it. But we've had pre-sales, we've had early access cards on Sorare, which means normally with football games, as you guys know, you need to wait for the players to get to the stadium, get to the training ground, get their pictures and all that. And then FIFA will be out like September, October, something like that. Football Manager normally comes out September, October. Football cards and stickers will come out when the kids are back at school and all the rest of it. But they managed to get around this by giving us little card packets. And that means when the pictures get sent over, the cards will come out the packet later on and they look nice and shiny. But the benefit means we can get our cards today for the full season. We can have them. And they've got a special on for just the Scottish League for the next 2 weekends, this one and next one, that covers all the kind of different price points, the cheap cards, the yellow ones, and then the slightly more expensive through red, blue, and then black there. And I know you, McBride, you're the Scottish whale, as we like to call you over here. You've got hundreds of cards, thousands maybe even probably. And, how excited were you when you seen this one come out?
Well, that was true. I was on holiday and I'd said to the wife, like, I'm going to be buying a few cards today and things when, and they came out and I wasn't really that enthusiastic about it at that point. We're not getting into the ins and outs of that. So I went back to the all-inclusive and just get drunk instead. But then they announced the special. So I think it was like a Friday and I was just sitting, chilling in the balcony and they said there's going to be an SPFL special. So that's really good because people don't know Sorare and usually you're playing against teams from all across the globe or different leagues, whereas this is just the fixtures for the Scottish League this weekend, which is really, really quite good. Rangers have been added this season, so let's not talk about that too much. But tough fixture away at Hearts. But yeah, the prize pools are really, really good, and I'm glad I've probably spent a bit too much, to be fair. No change there, but I'm glad I'm in amongst it for the first games, because that's really exciting. So yeah, adds to the
Super Rare
excitement.
looks pretty chunky. Top 15 are getting paid out something, McBride. You'll be in this with all the big hitters. There's only 16 entrants at the moment.
3 of them are me. so should I tell the wife? It's like,
I've got one
bank statement that's coming through at the end of the month. Rip it up when it arrives. Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, I've obviously got cards from the previous season, and you needed 1 or 2 from the new season, and so I went in and built my Celtic teams. So there we go. But the prize money is really good, so I think it's worth it, because you've got the next round of the SPFL special, Hibs away for Celtic, and then you've got all the ongoing cash competitions, all the other competitions through the whole season, right through until May. So there's plenty of time to stave off the divorce lawyer.
Indeed. I managed to get a few Celtic teams out, but sadly not all in the right region. I've not got a cash for Schmeichel yet, because they're very expensive, so I'm having to use non-Celtic goalkeepers. I've got a wee Rakitic going in with my Celtic boys this weekend, but he's went back. He's done the sort of thing we're talking about. You know, he's went back to live his best life at Hajduk Split. They're at home to a part-time team this weekend. So I'm hoping for a wee bit of prime Rakitic to maybe kind of help me over the line with some bits and bobs. Full Celtic rig there, basically. I've got Jackie Makis back in a team next to Dyson Maeda, a bit of a throwback there for some of you guys. Alongside who I think could be the next Matt O'Reilly for us if we went bottom, Ao Tanaka. And then a bit of a Celtic lineup there for that one. But yeah, nothing mad exciting.
It's one of the really good things about Sorare as well, right? So you've got Giakoumakis, and he's away playing in Mexico, but you can still use him. He's still scored, and you know you can still keep him in your collection. So you don't have to just use him for Celtic games if he's away playing for his team in the Leagues Cup at the moment, isn't it? So you were playing for them in the Leagues Cup against the MLS teams, and Liam Scales with Aberdeen card. Get him in the hoops, Quinny. Come on. But
I was about to buy the last season's one, and then new season cards came out, and I thought, well, if I'm buying a Celtic Scales, why don't I just buy a in-season Celtic Scales? But he's still quite punchy. Need to wait for some centre-back rumours to come out, and then I'll buy one when he gets a bit cheaper, maybe.
I think maybe naturally cards are a wee bit higher just now, because they're chucking $50,000 at the SPFL in the next 2 weekends. So you just wait until after the next 2 weekends and then pick them up. Then you'll probably get them naturally a bit cheaper, but you'll have missed being able to play. But if you can't play anyway, obviously if you don't have Schmeichel or other goalkeepers, then that's fair dues. But yeah, it's start of the season, there's a bit of hype, everybody's excited. A lot of the other leagues are not back yet. I mean, we're going to have 4 slot on Sunday because the EPL, etc. is not back. So it's a good chance to showcase the league. You've got a couple of different games on the telly over the weekend, which is a really good game on Saturday, and then I think maybe 2 games on Sunday. Maybe at least Celtic around. I don't know if I showed an earlier game, maybe Dundee United and Dundee, etc. So that's really good to have that slot and that chance to stop everybody watching the Olympics.
Yeah, so this is the match lineup we've got for the weekend. So yeah, Rangers versus Hearts is the opener. Motherwell, Ross County is also Saturday. And then we've got Aberdeen, St Johnstone on the Monday.
So Monday night football?
Monday night football comes to Scotland.
Do you think Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher are going to be on discussing who's playing in goals for St Johnstone?
Who's that going to be? It's going to be Michael Stewart and Pat Nevin or something, isn't it? No doubt.
That's a filter. Yeah, but I mean, it's good to see. I mean, it's one of the advantages of the league being back early, and I think there's no winter break this year as well because of the extended fixtures and everything. So we're going to have wall-to-wall football all the way through Christmas, all the way through January when other people are off and everything. So anybody is thinking about playing on Sorare, you get some quite good value, and you can play, with teams where you've got a bit of knowledge of those teams. A lot of them are not really brilliant for the scoring system, but there's a lot of good players about in Scotland. I mean, obviously Aberdeen guys do pretty well, Hearts do pretty well. We're not talking about the blue team. We'll move on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a bit of a joke between all of us, but Rangers haven't been on Sorare. This is now the 4th season of Celtic cards. And Celtic cards, as me and McBride can attest to, have been sold for a lot of money over the years. And the Celtic, it's official merchandise. You probably see the Sorare boards at the side of Celtic Park, but like Celtic get a cut of all of that. It's their merch that they're selling. So Rangers have opened up a new revenue stream this year. It's not that much. It's not going to buy them a player or fuck all, but it's been funny the whole time that they've been struggling, that there's been like easy money here because some of the players score very well, obviously, and they've never had access to it. But just a bit of a funny one for them.
It depends how many penalties Tavernier gets this season, doesn't it? Or whether he goes to Trabzonspor or Aris Limassol or one of the fancy destinations of teams that are willing to take somebody in a big wage. But there we go.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But I had it on screen now. I'll just put it back on again. But this is the team I'm fancying for the weekend. I'm playing the defender Hatate. I've got the captain O'Reilly in midfield, and then the two new cards I bought. Had to get a Nicholas Kuhn in the green and white. The last team he played for was in green, so there's a lot of green Nicholas Kuhns around anyway. But I wanted a green and white one. And then this is my fourth Dyson Maeda card I've got, McBride.
You're rising. $1,500 for first. I mean, the thing is, I have to say that I think you'll probably be the only Celtic stack that's in with Ross Laidlaw. So you've got a differential in goals, and you just never know. I mean, Celtic could maybe dominate the game, and Schmeichel does a 60 or whatever. Somebody else saves a penalty or whatever. It's a fantasy football contest. Like, it's not. If you knew who was going to win it before you started, then nobody would bother entering. So yeah, every chance, and 4 Celtic cards always helps there as well. And Maeda, I mean, he finished the season really well. Hopefully he's not no real issues after that knock he took in the last friendly as well. But we'll see. Press conference out tomorrow, so we'll see what's happening then, and then we'll look forward to a weekend of Scottish football. Can't wait.
Back with a bang. And I think this is probably what we can finish on. Any news on Adam Ida? There's a big there's a big feeling that we're going to have another striker. We've had it in the live chat. I've seen it on Twitter and a few other bits and places. But a lot of people feel that Ida's maybe not far away, and we'll see how it happens. I don't know if I would celebrate. No, I don't know if I would. But Laidlaw will be playing on the Saturday, so I'll know my goalkeeper's score going into the game. So my goalkeeper, my sweat will be over for that. I definitely won't be happy if we concede. Barkas is not a bad card to have, by the way. I was actually close to getting one in the off season. McBride, you must have a Barkas.
I've got a limited in one of the collections, but yeah, I don't have anything above limited. But yeah,
no Barkas for me.
Big Barkas, what a guy!
No,
He's actually done pretty well. He's actually done pretty well for Utrecht. There's no doubt about it. It was a bit of a weird one that where we let him go, and then all of a sudden he just went back and signed for the same team. But there we go. Such is our transfer business. Or
he's not terrible.
Yeah,
outside of one,
pretty decent.
But yeah, look forward to the game on Sunday. If you're going to the game on Sunday, travel safe, stay out of trouble. If you see me and McBride, of course, fist bumps on arrival, and all that good stuff. But yeah, thanks to everyone for welcoming us back. We're here for the 24-25 season. I've had a great time. I was going to speak for you two there, McBride, but I don't know. Maybe you've had a horrible time here. I don't know. But it's great to be back.
I'm not going with you on Sunday. This has been an hour of my life away. No, I'm not kidding. That's been really good to come back and talk about Celtic again. Look forward to the game. So yeah, I'm honestly really looking forward to going to Celtic Park and enjoying it again. We're really good end to the season. Lots of celebrations, etc. So I'm buzzing to go back and support the team.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks again to everyone. Hail, hail, Mono Hoops. Oh, we can't finish this without a score prediction. We do it every time. I'm going to go 3-0.
4-0.
3s and 4s. Love it. Throw them into the live chat. If you've watched this after we've been live, get them into the comment section. We'll catch up with them next week. And yeah, guys, have a great one. Have fun. Stay out of trouble. Mono Hoops.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.